Hey there, Holotable hackers. What capital ship are we going to hack into the game today? Yes, we are going to hack a capital ship, and we know the fleet meta is well overdue for a overhaul, and before you start guessing, the thumbnail is not a clue. Normally when we do a Holotable hack, you might be able to guess the character by the thumbnail, but the silhouette of a starship tends to be pretty unique. So I used a generic silhouette so that you couldn't guess what it was. I might have to do that with some of the characters as well. Is the thumbnail is too big of a clue, so I might have to adjust that. But while you're here in the maintenance bay, light up that subscribe button so that you can see all of our Holotable hacks, and feel free to throw that intergalactic symbol of encouragement, the thumbs up button. That would be wizard. So we've never hacked a ship into the game before, but we're going to today, particularly because we're thinking about the fleet meta with the lightspeed bundles of the Leviathan coming out. Everybody's wondering, does that mean a new ship is on the horizon? We used to get a new capital ship about the same time every year. Now it's been well over 2 years. We have not got a new capital ship in game, and many would agree that the fleet meta needs some work. So in thinking about that, if CG is going to update the fleet meta, they're going to want to introduce something that utilizes some content already in the game. They do this a lot. And they've done several fleet meta updates here and there to kind of shake things up, which is good. The introduction of Punishing One, for instance, brought the Executor up in rank, made it a truly viable defensive fleet. Many would say the most defensive fleet. It probably still gets the most holds. And then they introduced Rogue One, brought the Profundity up as well. Even introducing the B-Wing got Home One to be a viable fleet, especially for early game players, but it's also a regular fleet now used in GAC, Territory Wars, etc. All of these updates are good, but they act as sort of a temporary fix to fix the fleet meta. It shakes things up, but it's just prolonging bringing in a new fleet. Because CG would have a tough time introducing a new capital ship and an entire new fleet of new ships, and then perhaps a whole bunch of new pilots on top of that. So they've done these 3 patches, so to speak, to prolong bringing in a bunch of new ships. Why? Well, characters are so much more popular. I mean, I love ships, but to have, for instance, an entire era of ships to build a new fleet could easily make a lot of new players lose interest in the game. Even some veteran players feel that ships is pretty meh, so that's a big risk, and with the 10-year anniversary, a lot of people joined in the game, so it's going to be pretty risky to introduce a bunch of ships which aren't as popular. So they're going to want to minimize the amount of new ships taking up that every other week slot of a new character. And they always take advantage of things that are already in the game. For example, when the B-Wing was introduced, they sort of shoehorned the pilot in the form of Captain Drogon. Captain Drogon is the only character in Swigo that exists only in Swigo. He was made for this game, which is really cool. But there's no comic, there's no movie, there's no other video game that shows Captain Drogon piloting a B-Wing. But this allows CG to not have to create another character along with the new ship to pilot it. So they're always looking for ways to utilize something already in-game, especially if it's something that was not being used anywhere else. Another example of that is that we've got Krennic and Probe Droid now coming back into the meta by giving them a team, namely the ISB, that fits in around them. So they're not creating 6 new characters. They're using Krennic and Probe Droid to sort of fill out that squad, and that's smart. And it brings old, unused stuff back into use, which is great. It's something we as players and fans really like to see. But if that's the case, what ships are left without a fleet that they could really utilize? There's really not that many. I mean, can you think of many ships that are sort of orbiting around with no fleet to really belong to? I think of the Ebon Hawk. I don't really see this as being a part of a fleet right now. The TIE Reaper is used in some off-meta counters, which is good, but doesn't really feel like an official part of a fleet. Correct me if I'm wrong. And if you think of any others, put them down in the transmission section below. I'm curious to see what ships are not really being utilized. A couple others are the Clone Sergeant's Ark and the Jedi Consular's Starfighter. And of course, these characters aren't even sort of uniquely named characters. The Jedi Consular is just sort of a general purpose Jedi, Clone Sergeant isn't Rex or Fives, it's just a Clone Sergeant. So sort of these unnamed characters are not quite as interesting as the named unique characters that we all become fans of. So if they're going to update the fleet meta, it is going to require a few new ships. But is there any content that could be utilized? Yes, there is. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. But CG has also shown that they want the latest fleet to be at the very top. Essentially, the only thing that can counter it should be it itself. I remember when Punishing One came out and was immediately able to defeat Leviathan on auto. When CG went, immediately CG was like, oh, whoa, wait, and buffed the TIE Dorito to make sure that that was not the case anymore. There's been several updates to the Leviathan or other ships to make sure that Leviathan, being the latest capital ship, the latest fleet, that one stays on top. So CG has shown that they want that, and that makes sense. It's going to take a lot of investment to get the newest toy, and they want that to be at the very top. And being at the top of fleet is very important. It's a mainstay of many players' crystal income. Being at rank 1 in time for your payout is a whopping 400 crystals per day. So that reward goes to those who are using the latest fleet. That would make whatever capital ship appears next extremely valuable. So let's navigate to our capital ships. And I'm going to do a quick hack here to temporarily remove this capital ship from the game. Here we go. All right, now that we've got a space here, let's do another partial hack here, and this might give it away. Of course, the tags and the abilities tend to be the biggest clues. So the tags are interesting. Dark Side, Capital Ship, Mercenary, and Night Sister. You might have the capital ship already in mind. The abilities for the Empire, for Dathomir, Particle Holoprojector, Hyperspace Transport Ring, and Delivered from Exile. You've probably guessed it already. Let's do one final hack to get this in the game. There we go. The Eye of Scion. This would be an awesome capital ship to bring into the game. And the ultimate ability would be the extragalactic jump to Peridia and then immediately coming back with Admiral Thrawn's Chimera. I'm not sure if it's going to have a different name, like the Grim Chimera or something. Chimera Return from Exile or whatever it be. But I'm sure we'll see more of this in Ahsoka Season 2. And that's part of the reason why I think this would be such a great addition to the game. CG is always trying to tie the new content to the latest releases. This would also be a fan favorite because so many people are huge fans of Grand Admiral Thrawn. Many people would like to see a legendary version of him, or even a galactic legend. How cool would it be to bring back his ship this way? Now the captain, though, would be Morgan Elsbeth, but I think this makes a lot of sense. Now, what ships would go along with this would be those RP-82 Fiend fighters, and again, we're using content already in the game. Shin would be able to pilot one, Marok would be able to pilot one, so we're not needing to add extra characters to pilot. These were also piloted by the scout guards that were with Morgan Elsbeth, so that might be another character that would be introduced for another Fiend fighter pilot. I'm not sure who else would round out that fleet. That's still only 3 ships, and it would need to introduce 3 new ships and the capital ship and a new pilot. So that's a lot of content and a lot of ship content at that. So I'm not sure what else would be used. Or maybe we could get Forlom and Zuckus's ship, the Mist Hunter. I mean, technically they're bounty hunters and not mercenaries, but I mean, that line's kind of blurry and has been blurred before. And CG does that, and it's kind of cool, actually. Another example of that is like the Stranger with Starkiller. Definitely fits thematically. Stranger wanted an acolyte, Starkiller would be a perfect pupil, but in lore, they've never crossed paths, but that's okay. I mean, part of the fun of Swigo is you can have Luke Skywalker and Kylo Ren on the same team if you want. Makes no sense in lore, but who cares? This game is all about those kinds of mashups. That being said, maybe they'll just have the Ebon Hawk and the Jedi Consular's Starfighter teamed up with the Eye of Scion as well. Why not? That would be absurd and hilarious. I know Vane had that really cool snub fighter as well. That seems like it could go on, but he's a pirate. He's not a mercenary. So that would be kind of shoehorned in. What do you think could also go on this fleet? There were some droid-type ships that were dispatched as well from the Eye of Sion. That would be a non-piloted ship. That could be an addition. But what else could round out this fleet? That's, at most, still only 4 ships. I think we would at least need a 5th one when you've got ships like the Finalizer and the Radis that have basically a 5-ship fleet. That is, you're starting 3 and then 2 reinforcements. So I need one, at least another ship. So what other ships could go with this one? But those are some of the reasons I think it's such a good idea. Hinging off of the current Star Wars media that we're looking forward to, Ahsoka Season 2, it brings back Grand Admiral Thrawn, which so many people love, and it does use several characters already in-game. So what would some of these abilities be, though? I'm primarily thinking about how CG always wants to keep the latest capital ship on top, and we've had quite an evolution of capital ships. For example, when the Radis came out, you could sacrifice your capital ship to destroy the other capital ship with the Holdo remover. With the Holdo remover, not the Holdo maneuver, not remover. I mean, it removes the capital ship. I guess you could call it the Holdo remover. That's exciting, but you sacrifice your own capital ship. When that's on defense, once that one-trick pony goes, if your defense is able to take that battle, that's great. You take a lot of banners from your opponent, but it's not a full hold because the next ship to come against it is going to take out that remaining fleet because it has no capital ship anymore. Then we get the Executor, using the Death Star to blow up the opponent's capital ship. How satisfying is that? That is so much fun. That completely eliminates the opposing team's capital ship. We have the Profundity, which basically does the same thing, sending the other capital ship chasing the Tantive 4. That's exciting. Not as fun as blowing it up with the Death Star, but, it's good. Same effect. And then with the Leviathan, we get to commandeer the opposing capital ship. That's pretty fun too. So what could Thrawn's Eye of Sion possibly do to top that? Well, I'm not sure it tops that, but it would be able to stay on top of the fleet with one mechanic in particular. Keep in mind, the way you take over the opposing fleet is not attacking the capital ship. As long as you destroy all of the opposing ships, if the capital ship remains, that's fine. You still win. I think back to the Chimera's ultimate, Strategic Dominance, where Thrawn just insta-kills an opposing ship. I would imagine that the ultimate is, again, lighting up all those hyperdrives and zooming off to Peridia and then coming back. And remember, when it did that in Ahsoka, there was this real space ripple effect that just took out opposing ships. It disabled others. It took away their defenses, so it could remove protection perhaps in-game. Certainly stunning a lot of ships. A lot of times the ultimate stuns the opposing ships, so I definitely think that would be a lore-accurate thing to happen for that ultimate. But on top of that, once the Eye of Sion returns with the Chimera, I think that Strategic Dominance ability, although it might be named something different, would kind of come into play. Basically, your speed of the capital ship would increase. I mean, with 9 hyperdrives, how could the speed not increase, right? But then that Strategic Dominance would be able to become sort of the new basic. Every time that capital ship went would be an insta-kill of the opposing fleet. That's just what I'm thinking the ability could be. Again, in Ahsoka Season 2, we might see something truly remarkable, something completely different from that ship. So I'm open to other ideas, of course, especially when we see what happens upon its return to the Star Wars galaxy. But what do you think? What are some abilities that you think could be attributed to this ship? What other ships would be needed to fill out the fleet? Do you want to see this one in game? Let me know in the transmission section below. Each comment counts as a vote, so put in your favorite characters or even ships or capital ships. Which ones would you like to see hacked into the game? We've had several votes for several characters already, none that have reached a particular threshold yet. And keep in mind, you can vote again and again. Well, thanks again for stopping into the Holotable Maintenance Bay. Keep those holotables humming, and may the Force be...
Maleran, can you come over here, please? The guild lounge is getting really warm. Can you take a look at the thermal exhaust port?
Yeah, sure thing, Faye. I gotta get back to work.